warm welcome from all of us here at the Geneva Center for Security Policy. We're very pleased to have you join us for this sixth prize-giving ceremony for the GCSP's Prize for Innovation in Global Security. Although we're holding this event, which is an important event in our annual calendar in virtual form, I hope you will all enjoy following it with us on your screens around the world. Despite the circumstances, only together can we do it this way. I'm Associate Fellow Dr. Paul Vallée, and it's my pleasure to accompany you for this program. So now allow me to hand you over to our Director, Ambassador Christian Doucet, to formally open the proceedings.
Thank you, Paul. Good afternoon, good evening, or good morning. Greetings from Geneva. Thank you very much for joining us today, wherever you are. In 2015, under the umbrella of its Creativity and Innovation Initiative, the GCSP and its Geopolitics and Global Future program established a prize in order to recognize deserving individuals or organizations that have an innovative approach to addressing international security challenges. The prize is designed to reach across all relevant disciplines and fields. It is intended to encourage and recognize excellence in contributing to new approaches to enhancing sustainable global security. A broad range of projects have qualified for consideration, including technological and conceptual innovations, original research, or grassroots initiatives. This year, we have received 127 submissions from all continents. I'm now delighted to present the member of the jury of this year's prize. I will start with Ambassador Nadine Olivieri Lozano, Head of the Division for Security Policy at the Federal Department of Foreign Affairs of Switzerland. Lieutenant General retired André Blattmann, former Chief of the Swiss Armed Forces. Ms. Angela Kane, Senior Fellow at the Vienna Center for Disarmament and Non-Proliferation. Professor Jane Royston, entrepreneur and member of the Swiss Science Council. Ms. Lauren Anderson, founder and CEO of LC Anderson International Consulting and a former FBI executive. And Professor Naif Al-Rodan, head of the GCSP Geopolitics and Global Future Programs and honorary fellow at St. Antony's College, University of Oxford. Thank you very much for joining us today, and Paul, over to you.
Thank you very much, Ambassador Doucet. I now invite Professor Naif Al-Rodan, the head of the Geopolitics and Global Futures program, to deliver his own remarks.
Thank you, Paul. My thanks also to Ambassador Doucet and to our distinguished jury, and to the GCSP staff who put this on in a very professional way. I just want to, in a few minutes, say a few words about the conceptual foundations of the prize. Most of these concepts we developed at GCSP within our program and in collaboration with our distinguished colleagues. Our view of global security is much more than collective national securities of various states. I mean, that seems an obvious thing, but it's not as obvious as it seems. And we have advocated that global security has 5 dimensions. One is national security, and that is the most important part. And the reason for that is because the state remains the most pivotal unitary actor in the global system. And that's likely to remain for the foreseeable future. Then we have human security, transnational security enabled by technology, transcultural security, which is very relevant to global security because of the emotive nature of cultural discourse. And then finally, environmental security. The second concept, which is tied to this that we've advocated about a decade ago, is that we don't believe that zero-sum paradigms in our connected and interdependent world works anymore. I don't think it ever did historically, but it certainly doesn't now. And we have replaced it by what we call multi-sum security. And the crux of this is that we think that in a connected, interdependent, disruptive world, no state will be safe unless every other state is relatively safe. The third concept is we think international relations paradigms of classical realism or neoliberalism, again, need to be modified. And we have advocated what we've called symbiotic realism. And of course, that allows for realism because the world remains a self-help system with no overarching authority. But the difference is that it allows for absolute gains rather than relative gains. And it also allows for non-conflictual competition. In other words, win-win symbiotic coexistence. That's a little bit normative, but going forward, I think this is the only way forward. The other concept that is relevant is what we have called the great enablers, the game changers. And given those 5 dimensions and those paradigms around that, the great enablers for the good, the bad, and the ugly have been: one is this unbelievable exponential growth in disruptive and transformative technologies, both in communications, information, and everything else. Second, we think synthetic biology is extremely disruptive, for good and for ill. It could be the prelude to very useful things, both in health and disease, but it can also be a vehicle for producing very dangerous pathogens, and also in the military and everything else. And the third game changer that we like to talk about and have written a great deal about is what I call super intelligence. And that is the marriage between bio-inspired intelligence in terms of transhumanism, but it's also artificial and the combination thereof, things like artificial intelligence and machine learning. And of course, we're way behind. Innovation is supposed to be ahead of regulation, but in today's world, regulation is way behind in terms of ethics and security and societal norms that I think we need to catch up. Because this is an innovative prize, what kind of things do we think are just over the horizon in terms of major security threats? One, we think another biocatastrophe, another pandemic, probably within the next decade or two. Because hopefully we have learned a great deal in terms of preparation, in terms of science, and in terms of the disinformation that accompanied this very unfortunate pandemic, which has been very counter-effective and very disruptive. Second is really, we worry about cyber issues in terms of major critical infrastructure / financial cyber meltdown. Those are, and the problem with that is that it's not only rogue states that may be the culprit, but also non-state actors all over the world. And thirdly, which is not so obvious to most people, but it's obvious to us because we've done a lot of work on it, is what I call cascading outer space security conflict. Outer space appears for most people as a novel medium. It's a global commons that is increasingly being cluttered. We call it congested, contested, and competitive. And with the exponential growth of satellites and the danger of space debris, and the more even dangerous consequence of the militarization of space, which is going full speed ahead, sadly. Along with ASAT tests, which I'm sure most of you have been aware of. So we have a major problem because humanity is becoming increasingly and irreversibly dependent on space. And any disruption of any kind up there will be highly consequential to our societal norms and daily existence. So I've always said in my writings about this is space will either be safe for everyone or for no one. And of course, it's intimately intertwined with terrestrial security. So I think that's one over the horizon. So the take-home message is, one, we need to perfect old tested methodologies of bringing global order to fruition and making sure it's safe and secure for everyone. And then also think outside the box, like we're trying to do with this prize. And most of our work is actually on the fringe of global security, but also to prepare for black swans. I mean, this pandemic, most of us a decade ago knew that it was going to happen. And everybody talked about it, everybody wrote about it. And then when it did happen, most people or most societies were not ready. So I think these things have to be taken seriously. And then we have to collectively really strive for sustainable solutions to global security, because we're too connected, too interdependent, and we have disruptive enablers in the form of technology. And unless we have a collective action, we will fail. I will stop here, Paul. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Professor Al-Roudan. Since 2015, 5 winning projects have already received the prize for innovation in global security. And each of them shared with us impressions about their work, the way the prize has impacted on their innovation's notoriety, and how current conditions are affecting their crucial humanitarian work. So for the next few minutes, I'll ask you to please join me in discovering these 5 previous winners in the interview we recorded previously. While we do this, our team will be proceeding with the prize draw from among you who are logged in to participate in this session. And I'll give you the results of that prize draw with some tidbits attached to them after the interviews. Welcome to all of you who are joining us for this occasion. Now, this year's 6th GCSP Prize for Innovation in Global Security is a special ceremony because it coincides with the 25th anniversary of the Geneva Center for Security Policy. So marking this occasion, we've decided to bring back the winners of the previous 5 editions of the prize to discuss their experience and the impact the prize had on their respective programs. My name is Paul Vallée. I'm an associate fellow with the Global Fellowship Initiative at the Geneva Center for Security Policy, and I'll be moderating the discussion for this event. We're joined in chronological order of winning the prize. In 2015, it was Lucid.Berlin, represented by Mr. Jan Schiele, for the project Improve the Protection of Children in Conflict. It was an online application to provide tools and resources concerning international humanitarian law. In 2016, the recipients were Eyewitness to Atrocities by the International Bar Association. They're represented by Miss Wendy, and they also provided an application for smartphones to provide human rights defenders, documenters, journalists, ordinary citizens with the ability to capture verifiable videos and photos to international atrocities. In 2017, the recipients were EcoPeace Middle East, represented today by Ms. Dalit Wolf-Golan, their deputy director, and it was for their program on water security in the Middle East in the form of environmental peace building. In 2018, the recipients were BMJ with their Clinical Decision Support and Training Initiative, which is an online tool designed to improve pandemic detection, diagnosis, management, and prevention. They're represented today by 3 personalities, Ms. Mitali Vorchinsky, Dr. Elisa Roma, and Mr. Kieran Walsh. And finally, last but not least, the 2019 recipients were minefields.info, also a mobile phone application designed as a warning system for individuals and countries that have a problem with live mines and minefields, and they're represented by Mr. Ivan Martinic. So welcome to all of you, and we will start our discussion. I wanted to begin the first question to the winners in 2019, 2016, and 2015. So your organization won the GCSP Prize for Innovation in Global Security in those years. What I'd like to ask you is, in what ways did you project help to improve security in the world? And I'll first address the question to minefield.info.
Oh, thank you very much. We trying to change something, and we go with that application, and for now we change a lot of that, because our application saves the lives, and that is improved to the field. And in some countries we found problems because they don't have maps in the digital shapes. So now we are improving the application. So with using artificial intelligence, we can pronounce found safe paths for the people to go with that paths.
Thank you very much. Eyewitness to atrocities?
Yes, thank you. Thanks for having us. So our mission is to seek justice and to combat impunity for the worst international crimes. So we're focused on war crimes, genocide, crimes against humanity. And as you mentioned, we assist human rights defenders to capture photo and video of human rights violations in a manner that facilitates its use as evidence. And then we work with them to get that information actually into the hands of investigators and lawyers who can pursue accountability for those crimes. So what we believe is that combating impunity in that way really helps promote security, because accountability can ensure that the perpetrators of these heinous acts are stripped of their power, their position, their ability to continue to commit such crimes. And accountability overall can help break the cycles of violence that victimize marginalized and vulnerable communities. So I've witnessed over the past few years since having won the award, we've received nearly 12,000 photos and videos taken with the Eyewitness app that have contributed to 18 dossiers that we've provided to international, regional, and local investigators for fact-finding missions, for criminal cases, and for other investigations.
Thank you. And Lucid.Berlin?
Yeah, we mostly provide reference apps on human rights issues like children in armed conflict in 2015. We cover also women's human rights, and also reference apps on legal basis for negotiations at global institutions like the UN or national institutions, or providing academia with all the required knowledge on the actually international law. So we also cover climate-related issues, and thereby we hope to nurture the international discourse and provide the basis for smart legal decisions and negotiations on each level in the world.
Thank you. Well, our next question will be for the winners in 2018 and 2017, so BMJ and Ecopis Middle East. I'd like to ask each one of you to tell us what development have you brought to your program since last meeting us. Let's start with the BMJ.
Thank you very much. Kieran Walsh is my name, and we're delighted to be here. There are three key areas which we've focused on since the award: impact, product development, and partnerships. Firstly, in terms of impact, we've improved the way that we design and measure the impact of our programs. So we've improved our theory of change and now produce much more detailed reports on our programs, which is a means of enabling sustainment. We've also published on the impact of our programs quite widely, which is a great way of sharing what we've done and what we've learned and developing an evidence base for the effectiveness of our approach. Secondly, in terms of product, the main product that underlies our programs is BMJ Best Practice, which is our clinical decision support tool. And we've adapted the tool recently, so it enables the management of multiple conditions, such as COVID-19 and hypertension, or COVID-19 and diabetes. And we know that comorbidities are so important in the context of the pandemic, and so that enables higher quality care. We've also changed our processes so that we can continuously update the content, which once again is essential during the pandemic and our COVID-19 topic, has received a substantial update every day for the past 3 months. We've also changed our systems in terms of publishing research, and so we've improved our processes so that we can process research much more quickly and make it freely available to a large audience, once again, essential in the pandemic. Finally, in terms of partnerships, we developed new partnerships and relationships with a variety of global funders and international development agencies, which we hope will enable us to expand our programs and deliver our mission of developing a healthier world.
Thank you. And EcoPeace Middle East?
So EcoPeace Middle East is a trilateral organization of Jordanians, Palestinians, and Israelis, and we've been working for the past 25 years to promote peace and to protect our shared environment, focusing particularly on the issue of water, because we recognize that water can be a source of conflict, but equally a cause for cooperation. We received a prize actually for our global program, and our global program explores how we can use the methodology that we've developed in the Middle East to other conflict areas and water-scarce areas around the world. And since we've received the prize in 2017, we've held numerous workshops with civil society organizations throughout the world, really from all areas that you can think of. Including our own MENA region. We've had workshops with organizations in Iraq, in Yemen. We've worked with very exciting organizations in India, Pakistan, to see how they can use the methods that we have developed in our own countries to do the same in theirs. And we've developed strategic partnerships with global organizations. So, for example, we're working with the Waterkeepers Alliance that have over 300 organizations throughout the world, and we help them train their water keepers to see if, again, can create those linkages between, on one hand, peace building, on the other hand, the environment. We've helped them, for example, develop programming and how they can reach out to religious leaders and engage them in this kind of work. And we've worked with the UN peacekeeping mission in Cyprus. We've really created a program that is now very relevant to many different areas around the world.
Thank you. Well, our next question is addressed to both Minefield.info and EcoPeace Middle East. And it will be one about, what did the award change for you in terms of recognition? If we'll start with Ivan.
There was change a lot of things, because now we have much more opportunity to do something. A lot of doors are opened, and people look at us in a different way. That's what means a lot for us.
Got it?
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah, it's very similar. I mean, we are a 25-year-old organization, 26 even, but this program, this global program, was a new program when we received the prize. And in that sense, it was really crucial to give us the recognition that we needed and the reputation that we needed and the credibility that helps us both reach out and bring in participants and other groups to join our trainings, as well as to build partnerships that in the end help us scope the program.
Thank you. Well, our next question is going to go to some of the older recipients, so to Jan and Wendy. Of course, since then, how did the prize money help you develop your program? We start with Jan.
So for us, the prize was the assurance that we as a company, as we are a company with a strong, intrinsic motivation. So we focus on only working for global institutions and other actors that really thrive to better this world, including protecting human rights. And so coming back to your question, it helped us to really understand the ecosystem in which we were working, aside of pushing us forward. And the money we mostly put into research and development, because you have to see these early applications we developed since 2012 or something. We mostly put our full R&D inside. Back then, there were no budgets for digital tools, or very little, small budgets. That has changed, and therefore we were able to do also much more consulting on the question of security, digital security, of reporting in crisis regions, so Witness will know what I'm talking about. I was lucky to consult once at this program, and so it really helped us to finance actually more endeavor, more innovation in that field.
Wendy?
Yes, so we received, as you mentioned, the award in 2016, and so we were really able to put those funds toward our operating cost, primarily towards dissemination of the app and our services in 2017, which ended up being a year where we were really able to significantly grow the program. So, for example, compared to 2016, we tripled the amount of footage we received, and we were able to expand from a base of active users in 3 countries to 9 countries. Also in 2017, we began a joint project that ended up leading to the first use of footage captured with Eyewitness at trial. So while that case wasn't heard until 2018, the investigation in the use of Eyewitness was in 2017. So it was really helpful to us, and even now the receipt of the award and the funding is still a talking point we use with other funders to demonstrate the recognized value of Eyewitness.
Thank you very much. Well, obviously, we've touched on this in some of your previous responses, but the next set of questions is about really how did the pandemic affect your work, and how did you adapt to it, or any other sort of recent developments where you found areas of innovation requiring further attention and support. So could we start with the BMJ, please?
Sure, thank you. Well, I mean, the pandemic has affected us operationally and strategically. The most obvious being, you know, we're a global health team. We operate global health programs in a number of countries around the world. And so the restrictions on travel have probably been the biggest operational impact. So we've had to change the way that we communicate, the change that we manage our relationships, and the governance and oversight of our programs. But I think we've been quite lucky in that our clinical decision support tool, training initiative, our tools, BMJ Best Practice and BMJ Learning, that they were digital, they were already available online. And so that's really benefited us in that we've been able to continue our programs and reach people. I think more strategically, one of the things in 2018 when we won the prize that we flagged was the need to have strong, resilient health systems, whether you're in a pandemic or not in a pandemic. You need well-equipped, capable healthcare professionals. And so it was disappointing that one of the things in the global health security agenda was the lack of focus on frontline training. So what we've done is we have been working with partners such as the Asian Development Bank, and we've been able to expand our program to 49 of their regional member countries. So I'd say those have been the key impacts for BMJ.
Thank you. Eyewitness?
So I think just to echo BMJ, our biggest impact really has been our inability to travel as well. So we rely very heavily on face-to-face interaction with the human rights organizations with which we work to provide training, not just on the app, but capacity strengthening around how to document violations and working collaboratively with them to determine the best uses of the information they're collecting. So we too have had to find ways to build this trust and create momentum remotely. So we've developed a slate of various types of remote training programs, which has been a bit tricky because we have to take into account the various types of cybersecurity threats our partners face in different areas of the world, different internet infrastructures, and just different time zones. So we have been able to put those together to keep that relationship ongoing. And all that being said, despite the local lockdowns and other things, our partners are still very active. Unfortunately, violations haven't stopped, and in some cases, under the guise of some of the lockdowns, have been increasing. So actually, the amount of footage that we've received for 2020 has still exceeded previous years, despite what's going on around the world. So we're hoping in 2021, we'll be able to resume some of our ability to work more hands-on with our partners and move things forward from there.
Thank you. Minefield.info.
Given recent events, I believe that the main problem of today is prevention of terrorist attacks, and I believe that using artificial intelligence can achieve a lot in this area, and we should work on it. For now, we are developing some applications that are using artificial intelligence for recognition of some people moving and something like that. So in the future, we think we can achieve a lot of in that field.
Thank you. Lucid.Berlin.
I think we have been able to get to really understand all the way from what I mentioned before, like the legal level on a global in a global sphere down to the situation on site. Also, thanks to working with Witness, we have been, I think. If we also, what we have heard, if we have the right infrastructure and digital infrastructure in place, we can bridge situations like the ones we have, like we do now. So we haven't met in Geneva. And I'm really much looking forward as the world is connecting further. And that's a good background to really be innovative and help to also provide secure solutions. What we have encountered on our last 10 years of existence, that digital security is a big issue. So we are dealing with a structure or a situation of digitalization in this world that is pretty, how to say, delicate for people on site. So as I mentioned before, I was happy to understand how Witness works in the field, but except Witness, we haven't found a way to provide a very secure environment for people in the field. Witness is very close to it. It's very good, and we hope to get further with that. So as we not only work on war crimes and security issues that affect people in the first place, but also, as mentioned before, on resource conflicts, on gender conflicts. This is an aspect we always have to have in mind, to take care of the people who use these applications that we put in the field, to take care that the data is safe, because it's still Wild West, I would say, in the internet. Mm-hmm. And the most powerful are the people who sit on the networks and control the networks, and that makes it very complicated to protect people in the field who might be captured with such an application in their hand. So that's a task still very hard to solve. I hope we're getting forward with that, and to gain civil rights also in the field of the internet.
Thank you very much. And finally, EcoPeace.
Yes, so for us, the pandemic has created, of course, challenges like for everyone else, but also many new opportunities. So there obviously, we've moved our trainings to an online environment, and we have started a webinar series. But I think our most exciting development and most innovative development has been to find a solution for our cross-border people-to-people activities. We've created a virtual meeting environment using virtual reality, and where our participants can meet as avatars and not only meet each other in a secure environment and in a very interesting environment, but also build together and do things together, creating really the details of that world, but also engage in challenges and quests that really use the agenda that we want to propose to them in new ways, so that we actually see value beyond the scope of the current crisis and using this kind of technology. And we believe that we will continue using it because there are things possible in the virtual world that we just cannot do in the real world. We can offer them access to areas that they normally cannot get into. And we can go back and forward in time in ways that we cannot do in the real world, and show them what the implications are of choices and of activities. And for us, that's of course a very, very interesting way to both implement our current agenda and objectives, but also to see how we can then use this on a global scale.
And thank you. Well, we're reaching now the final question, which has the most immediate impact on today's events, and it will be a question for all of you in turn to answer. It will be, what advice would you give to the future winners of the prize? And in particular for this year's winner, do you have any best practices advice that you'd like to share with this year's edition to move their project forward based on your experience? Shall we start chronologically with Jan?
The advice, yeah, so okay. I would say what we always aim to do is to really include everybody involved in the process of developing an innovation, so that it's not a brain-born idea, but it really comes from the field and is really designed in the field with the people who are affected, with the people who might report, if we talk about reporting, with the people who collect data, with the people we want to work with. We want to inform, we want to get in dialogue, and we want to participate. We have to involve them. If not, probably everything we would develop, at least in the technical field, I would say, would fail. And talking about funding before, we have to think about that these efforts also need a lot of work. And then in the end, us, at least as a company, we work with this information to develop something that really works and that has an impact on all these levels we have discussed today. So don't forget the people who are involved, and who should be convinced right from the beginning.
Thank you. Wendy?
I would build on what Jan said about the consultative process. I think in addition, you have to, you can't be afraid to question your assumptions and to be flexible. So I think especially with something innovative, what you thought you knew and understand about the target audience, about the context, may not always be accurate. And I can say from our experience, we have learned a lot over the past few years and had to adapt our approach as we've gone on. And I think it's that ability to grow and learn and experiment with new approaches that's helped lead to the success that we've enjoyed so far.
Thank you. Dalit?
So regarding the prize, use this momentum. The prize creates a lot of momentum. Use it to reach out to additional donors and stakeholders. And really, this is a very prestigious prize. So make the most of it. And as to adaptivity, I agree with Wendy. I think that if there's one thing that we've learned this year, is the power of resilience and adaptivity. When you need to throw away your plans, throw them away, build new ones, and then you can see that indeed challenges can become opportunities.
Thank you. The BMJ team?
So for us, I will echo what our colleagues have said. It was a fantastic learning opportunity. So for any new person that wants to apply, is to be innovative, focus on the impacts, don't be theoretical, but just think really what your project can actually change in other people's life and highlight that. So it was a great honor for us to be a winner.
Thank you. And over to you, Ivan.
We say, don't wait, don't use your time. Now you're big ready, use it. This is just beginning, and on the sky is the limit. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I believe that this concludes our interview. I'd like to thank all of you for taking the time to join us from your different time zones, sharing this experience and this advice, and hopefully, also, of course, giving a lot of inspiration to this year's winner and future winners afterwards. Thank you very much. Well, thank you very much to, of course, all of our past interviewees, and for you to return with us. Welcome back. Of course, I'm also pleased to welcome back to the prize drawing for your very own prize as well, too. So this is associated with the next Geopolitics and Global Future Symposium, which is a program to be held on September 1st, September 2nd, and September 3rd of 2021, so next year's symposium. So for the third prize, it consists in a free seat to one module of the symposium, and this has value of 500 Swiss francs. The winner is Sarah Worms. Congratulations. The second prize is a free seat to two modules of the symposium that has a value of 1,000 Swiss francs. The winner is Chitra Naranayanan. Sorry. Congratulations. And finally, the first prize is a free seat to three modules of the symposium that has a value of 1,200 Swiss francs. The winner is Monica Oproyu. Congratulations. Now comes, of course, the moment you've all been waiting for, the announcement of the winners of the 2020 GCSP Prize for Innovation in Global Security. Of course, it's a little bit of an innovation of this year, as we're announcing third, second, and first place winners. My honor is to announce the winner of the third place. And the third place in the 2020 GCSP Prize for Innovation in Global Security is Mind Vision, the robotic radar for an unmanned mines detection. It was submitted by Dr. Michael Arvanaitis with Symmetrics Geophysics and NDT. Congratulations to you on securing this place for your project, and it earns you, as you can see, a GCSP certificate of recognition. So that, of course, will, provide you with the visibility for your project. Now, due to a last-minute emergency, unfortunately, Dr. Arvanaitis and the Mind Vision team are not able to attend the ceremony in person, but I can give you, of course, a short description of this project, which has to do, as you might have guessed, with tackling the problem of unexploded ordnance. Unexploded ordnance, or UXO, are explosive weapons that did not explode when they were employed and still pose a risk of detonation, sometimes many decades after they were used or discarded. Unmapped UXO are responsible for more than 10,000 deaths and 100,000 injuries every year, as well as $1.5 billion US in damages, man-hours, or insurance. So there's an evident need to map UXO. For years, this has been done using metal and mine detectors or magnetometers, which present a number of problems. So Mind Vision is an automated detector of mines that blends two technologies for the well-being of UXO operators and the recovery of societies that suffer losses because of mines. It can detect both metallic and non-metallic targets, and it gives its exact position and depths. It collects data at high speeds and reliability with zero risks for operators. So, of course, quite an innovation. So congratulations again to you on this award, and I'm now passing over for the award of second position.
So the second position has been awarded to Cyber4 Healthcare, submitted by Cyber Peace Institute here in Geneva. And the winners are Ms. Otavia Galuzzi, Mr. Fabian Leim-Gruber, and Mr. Adrian Ogi.
Well, hi everyone. Can you hear me all right? Yes. Well, it's lovely to meet you. So distinguished jury and fellow participants and former winners, thank you very much. It's an honor for us to be here. Actually, my colleagues are there, Otavia and Fabien. I think they have switched on their camera indeed, who've been instrumental in bringing cyber healthcare to light. So I just wanted to thank everyone for this recognition, which for us just puts the light on the importance of cybersecurity, which many of you have touched upon. In particular, in this time and day with a pandemic and attackers that are not stopping their attacks against healthcare. If anything, they're increasing their attacks against healthcare, and that's something that we are not okay with. So we took it to heart to bring a bit of a response to this, and we are very happy and humbled by this recognition. I don't know if I have much more time to explain what type of healthcare is about, or if I should leave that for the end. Paul,
yes.
Sorry, do you want me to explain a little bit what type of healthcare is about, or should I keep that?
Well, I have a set of questions for you in the Q&A session afterwards. So I suggest your colleagues can go ahead.
I'll keep that for then.
Sorry.
All right. Well, thank you very much again.
And so for the winner of the first place, I'm handing over to Ambassador Gisay.
Thank you very much, Paul. And so the 2020 GCSP Prize for Innovation in Global Security goes to NLP Hate Speech Algorithm Development Project, submitted by Mr. Michael Lewin, Ms. Marta Noval Felgueroso, and Mr. Wayan of Coco Tech. Well done, very well done. You win a certificate of excellence, a prize trophy, as well as 10,000 Swiss francs. So congratulations to all of you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Ambassador, and thanks to all the panelists and the other winners and the past winners. I'll keep it relatively brief. I mean, Myanmar, I think, is well known to be perhaps the most notorious case of misuse of social media, right? Facebook itself admitted that its platform was used for widespread incitement of violence and hate speech, which directly contributed to 700,000 Rohingyas being forcibly moved, murdered, right? Various other things into Bangladesh. A UN fact-finding mission found the same, right? The alarm bells were sounded to Facebook 2013, 2014 by Myanmar civil society. Facebook, as we all know, didn't do anything about it. And so the question arises, what can not only Facebook, but other large social media platforms do going forward? And we've been working with Facebook and engaging with other social media companies. And we posit the premise that democratizing or transferring some of the power from large multinational social media companies to civil society is part of the solution. And our project has been developing a natural language processing algorithm to detect hate speech in compliance with international human rights law for Burmese language. But the idea is we're building out a larger web platform to scale this approach to civil society organizations all over the world. Perhaps most immediately in Sudan, where there's ongoing conflict and incitement of violence online now. Paul, I'm not sure if I'm supposed to do the presentation now, or is that supposed to wait till later?
Well, I think certainly we have some additional time, given the fact that we're interviewing the two winning teams. So if you want to save for later, I have the set of questions for you, and there's also time for the Q&A for the participants to submit questions to all of you. So
we can do it later. I'll ramble on later.
Great. Well, actually, we're actually going to move right on to this as well. Before we do this, of course, I think it's worth again giving a word of thanks to all of the jury members who participated in selecting these three winners out of the so many incredible submissions we received this year. The winners, of course, congratulations again to all of you, and of course the members of your team who are joining us. So we're indeed now going to have a conversation about your projects and their impacts. And I'd like to remind all the participants who are joining us here as well, we have made a time for a Q&A session after the initial questions I raised about the projects and their impacts. So if you'll kindly submit your question in writing via the chat box Q&A application, we'll be collecting these, and I will read them out to the winners so they can answer on you as well. And well, even if we should run out of a little time, because I'm sure all of these fascinating projects are going to generate a lot of questions, still feel free to write them in, and these questions will be in due time shared with the winners, and they can get back to you on this as well. So we'll, of course, come back to our first place winners, NLP as well. So would you like to expand a little bit about what you were just telling us about your project?
Sure. Thanks, Paul. So if I can share my screen, I'll give you a little bit of a taste. Okay, it looks like yeah, okay. Okay, I think you can see my screen, right? So we've built out a kind of front-end web app, and this is all real data. It's not dummy data that's been pulled from, this is Burmese language. Actually, some of the languages may not be Burmese, but this is pulled from Facebook pages. You can, for example, view, right to here, and you can see comments that have been pre-flagged by the model being questionable, like this one actually involves maybe killing. And so the idea is that you can report, and this is in line with an international human rights law framework. And this is in line with the Rabat plan of action. Now, this is a beta. We'll have to iterate on this. But the idea is that this writes to a Cloud SQL database, pretty straightforward. It resolves one of the issues where civil society organizations and researchers don't get any access to data once they've reported to tech media companies, right? Social media companies. You can look at, you can add new pages, and these are automated pulls, right? The current state of the art until we built this out was a spreadsheet. If you talk to civil society organizations around the world in any country, this is what they do. They copy and paste a URL. They copy, a date stamp. They might have a translation in English for commonality, right? And they might write some analysis, right? So it's systematizing what CSOs are doing in individual sort of data silos. There's also the old-fashioned way. This is not actual problematic. This is a friend of mine, Lauren Book, just as an example. If you want to manually, what CSOs do now, CSOs are civil society organizations. What they do now is they're manually looking through their news feed, or they get a message, a tip from a friend on a post they should check, right? You go to this post, you can generate a report. It submits to Facebook, it disappears, right? We built out a web browser extension where instead you click on this. This is the same URL of the post. You can upload screenshots if you want. You can select. Okay, Lauren didn't actually engage in this. We gotta resize this and have it auto resize the screen. But again, early version. You can add text. You select the status of the speaker. This is the US, and you write some analysis, right? Lauren is saying false things, right? And you submit, right to the database. That's sort of a quick overview of some of the kind of the work that we're starting to do. This is starting to expand to other countries and partners. And we think you need a blended law and computer science approach. So you need sort of standard software development and civil society organizations to work on this. But you also, it's absolutely essential to have cultural analysis, which is sort of anthropological on what's on the ground. We have actually done this with Facebook ourselves for the Myanmar elections. The Myanmar elections, let's not get too optimistic, but Facebook's actually been lauded for its change of approach, and a lot of it just involved working with us and other civil society organizations. And so that mixed with, we'll build out AI NLP models for different countries to help pre-screen content. And we're partnering with multilateral organizations to scale this up into as many countries as possible, both on the law and computer science side. And that's kind of an overview of what we're up to.
Thank you, Michael. Well, I'll pass on also to our second place winners, Cyber for Healthcare and their team. And would you like to elaborate a little bit on explaining your project in a few words?
Sure, thanks a lot, Paul. So Cyber for Healthcare is essentially a matchmaking initiative between organizations that are fighting COVID-19, healthcare organizations fighting COVID-19, and top renowned cybersecurity companies. What we do at the Cyber Peace Institute is we put those two together after having convinced, obviously, those companies to work for free. And we ensure that organizations that are fighting COVID right now are in that fight and in that fight only, that they don't need to worry about their cybersecurity. So it's a matchmaking between pro bono cybersecurity commercial offers that are normally paid for, and organizations in need, whether they're public, private, or civil society. So we have launched that in June. I could actually I didn't think of doing that before, but I could share my screen and show you the website, so you can see how it looks. How do I share a screen? Continue. Yeah. I think you should be able to see my screen now. So that's our website. It's as simple as clicking here and filling out a form, just saying what's the name of the organization you work for, and giving us a bit of detail so that we can reach back to you. And that's it. Here are some of the, let me go back to the page. Here's some of the partners that we work with. Bison, based out of Russia, Microsoft, Seattle, Rapid7 in the US, Cybexer is in Estonia. We have Yes Medical IT. We also have Cyber Ready. I think it's hidden somewhere behind here, which is based in Israel. And so we've been running since June. We have helped a growing number of organizations, mostly NGOs in 3 continents already. Whether it's NGOs providing relief to families that are impacted by COVID-19 and they're concerned about managing personal data. We're working with diagnostics organizations, with vaccine research organizations as well, that are concerned over the protection of their clinical data and want to make sure that they're secure from a cybersecurity perspective. And what else? The Cyber Peace Institute, some of you have mentioned how digital security, cybersecurity, security online, it has many names, but at the end of the day, it's all the same. How important it is in your respective activities, and we concur, and that's one of the reasons why the institute was created about a year ago. So we were launched in September last year. We were funded by the Hewlett Foundation, the Ford Foundation, the Facebook, Microsoft, and MasterCard. and our mission is to bring more stability to cyberspace. And I think it was Wendy who was talking about accountability from Eyewitness, and our theory of change at the Institute revolves exactly around accountability. We think that there's not enough accountability in cyberspace, that anyone can get away with almost anything, and that if we want to bring more peace to cyberspace, we need to have more accountability. So what we do is we provide help on the ground, and we are right now actively launching initiatives on the ground with organizations that are protecting vulnerable communities. And we help them improve their cybersecurity. We help them understand also what happened when they faced incidents. And so we have a big team of cybersecurity analysts, quite an advanced team, to be honest. I've spent my career in cybersecurity, and I think that we have gathered quite a group of experts that are able to do very advanced investigations and are able to understand exactly what happened. And that informs our advocacy work, which is based on the hard evidence that we derive from our investigations, and that we use to push for better norms at international level, at the UN, government level, and with various decision makers, of course, in the tech industry, with which we have strong ties thanks to our creation and our funders. So Cyber for Healthcare has already been operating in 3 continents, I mentioned. We have helped NGOs, we have helped social entrepreneurs. And one of the key challenges for us is to put the word out there that it's free, that we can help organizations, that they get away with better cybersecurity, they can protect their audience better as well. And it's just super difficult as a cybersecurity organization. We're fairly well known in cyberspace, but in healthcare, not many people know us. So the prize is, I think, Paul, you were mentioning that at the beginning, is a great opportunity to increase a little bit our visibility and make people aware of that opportunity for them. So I think that's mainly it. I'm happy to answer to any question that you may have.
Thank you very much, Alia. Well, I'll go back to the NLP team as well. Well, in your previous answer, you also, of course, gave us a bit of a demonstration of how the algorithm works practically as well. The next question was to ask you, indeed, how was it intended to create solutions to challenges in security?
So it's a very good question. We're trying to blend, sort of human, where technology can be useful for humans, right? So if any of you watched the Social Dilemma documentary, right, it ends with, tech was originally created to be useful, to be a tool, right? You see a wrench, you pick it up, you know how to use it, right? And there's this critique of social media companies where it's not a tool, it's kind of manipulating human behavior, right? And so we're trying to, if you're a civil society organization, it means that you are leanly staffed. So these are people in global South countries who are locals. They're born and raised in the country. They spent their whole lives in the country. They speak the native language. They understand all the local politics, all the cultural norms. They don't make a lot of money. They tend to be people who are strong believers in the rule of law and human rights. That doesn't pay the bills, right? They have to spend all day wading through a bunch of junk online. So the ML, the machine learning models that we would aim to develop is to assist them in doing their jobs. Right. So the model will pre-screen and pre-flag a bunch of posts and comments that then they go through, but they go through it like a grocery list. Bing, 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 bing. Instead of they spend much of their day doing this kind of random walk on their news feed and hunting around for tips and doing keyword searches and stuff, trying to find the right thing. So that's one. 2 is to kind of serve as a early detection system. So here's, at maturity, here's the kind of threats that are trending. Here's the kind of dangerous speech that's trending. civil society organizations, maybe you want to look in more deeply into that, both offline and online, right? And this is kind of the techniques we engaged in our works with Facebook this past year during the elections, right? In the run up to elections, which are culminated on November 8th, and a bunch of pages were shut down, and it turned out really well. So that gave us a lot of confidence that this probably is a good idea, right? And so we're trying to aim where the tech is supposed to help people do good work. It's not supposed to kind of capture them in this endless habit loop where they're just spending all their time online.
Okay, well, thank you. Back to cyber for healthcare. Obviously, what you were explaining to us, it seems your program's closely related to the COVID-19 pandemic. So how useful do you expect it to be when or if things go back to normal with this challenge and its uses for other ones?
A very good question. Thank you, Paul. The initiative was started notably because of the pandemic and because of suddenly heightened threat against healthcare organizations. The increase in phishing attack, I was reading a figure yesterday, was around like 30,000%. Like you have this crazy increase in certain types of attacks, and in particular, very worrying types of attacks like ransomware attacks that are taking hospitals hostage by encrypting files on the computers and the different systems of the hospitals, basically rendering the IT operation impossible until either a ransom is paid or the problem is fixed, which can take considerable amount of time. Like there was a ransomware that was launched at over 250 hospitals at the same time in the US about a few weeks ago, that blocked their IT operation for 3 weeks. So the impact on the running of the hospital, delays in terms of patient care, surgeries being cancelled, has increases massively to the point of having nefarious effects on the life of a patient. In Düsseldorf earlier in September, there was a patient that unfortunately passed following a transfer that was caused by a ransomware. So prosecutors are not saying that she would have passed anyway, but this is basically coming. And we don't think that the pandemic is actually gonna, when the pandemic is over, hopefully soon, we don't think that the threat against healthcare is necessarily going to go down. I think that lots of attackers are seeing the financial opportunity there, are understanding that by taking ransom, organizations that deal with life or death, the inclination to pay is high, and they will realize that it's a profitable line of business or crime. So I'm actually quite worried that the pandemic has been kickstarting a new wave of attacks against healthcare. And so our initiative, Cyber for Healthcare, is there to stay. It's not something that we see only linked with the pandemic. We will obviously change things and adapt so that it's not just serving COVID, and we're rethinking our model because commercial partners are not going to provide pro bono services forever, where they could basically get paid. So we are rethinking a little bit of the model to be able to offer a long-term service. But that's something that's actually always been in the pipes of the Cyber Peace Institute right from its inception. Right, we are looking at creating a network of volunteers, and those volunteers are going to be able to take that charge on even after the pandemic is over.
Thank you. Returning also to NLP, we've noticed that your project seemed, of course, closely related and orientated towards the issues pertaining to Myanmar. So, do you plan to expand it to other regions?
Yes. So, as always, the only bottleneck is funding, right? So we have a partnership with a UN agency to expand to basically all of their country offices, right? Which would be around 200 countries. We're gonna start gradually expanding to probably 3 to 5 countries, starting about now. But yes, so now we already have networks of civil society organizations in other countries, but now we're trying to build a network. And if anyone on this call is sort of interested in what we're talking about and wants to have a conversation further about expanding other civil society organizations, we're happy to have that conversation. And just a note, as I wrote in the chat, so we've been building a consortium, right? So INGR Article 19 is part of the consortium. They're kind of the most reputable INGO on freedom of expression, right? UNDP is a member of the consortium. We have an encryption firm partner. We have a law firm because there's gonna be compliance issues. And we have several university researchers, University of Michigan, Harvard University, University of Connecticut, Innovations for Poverty Action at New Haven. And so the idea is, like, we understand that this is going to require a whole ecosystem, and in an ideal world, it would be used in the entire global South. And you'd have this perpetual, perennial accountability and transparency mechanism on social media companies. And you'd have this early detection system where threats would be. I am not interested in, like, the American political culture wars. I'm interested in incitement of violence, oppression of ethnic, religious minorities, women, that's going on in the global South. And that's where we're trying to we're trying to set this this system up at scale, and we would be very interested in having further discussions about this. And we're in talks with the social media companies themselves about them, like, willingly complying and cooperating with this initiative.
Great, thanks, Michael. We'll wrap up to, I think, the final set of questions that I had for you. And returning to cyber for healthcare, now that will be a similar question for our winners as well. But returning to this, now you've received this GCSP certificate of recognition. What's next for your organization, Adrien?
All right, so things don't stop at the Cyber Peace Institute. We're actually celebrating our first anniversary next Monday, so please feel free to check our website and register. There's going to be lots of interesting conversations around what cyber peace means, what are the core pillars of cyber peace. I'm going to be running a panel, for instance, on dignity and equity that's going to be very, very insightful. So you're all very much invited to this. We're also scaling up our activities. We were set up, as I mentioned, in September last year. We were recruiting mostly this year and launching a number of key activities next year. I talked about the network of volunteers that we will launch in Q1. We are also launching a number of other more technical activities, right? One of the key pillars, as I mentioned, of the Institute is accountability. And to be able to do proper accountability, we want to use almost a scientific process of peer reviews. So when we investigate cases, we want to be sure that others are able to corroborate our findings. And so the whole technical background to make that happen, to have those joint cybersecurity investigations happen, is being built as we speak and will be launched next year. So there's lots of exciting challenges on the ground for us, ramping up our activities, first in Geneva because of the number of international organizations that protect vulnerable populations around the world that are based in Geneva. Our go-to-market strategy also involves ramping up our activities fairly soon around Africa, and then going into Latin America, where there's a deficit of cybersecurity, let's say, activism and awareness that we would like to help bridge. So lots of exciting things for us next year, and super happy to discuss with all of you. Actually, we will be reaching to many of you. So yeah, we expect to cooperate with the local ecosystem and many of you in the future. Thanks.
Thank you, Adrien. And well, I'll pass on to Michael for an LP. And as a matter of fact, this final question blends in with the first question we've received online for you, so I thought I might read it out to you straight away. And this is from Sarah Vorms, who was asking you, how do you plan to use the money from the prize to develop your project now?
Yeah, I mean, basically, so what we're doing now is we're in contact with civil society organizations in Sudan and Myanmar, and we're doing, it's not the right term, but the buzz term from Sarah is product market fit, right? Obviously, it's not a market based product; it's like product CSO fit. And so I think, as everyone on this call knows, you can have the grandest philosophical and technical ideas ever. If the end user doesn't want to use it, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. So the idea is to use this money to nail a product end user fit. So iterate, get feedback, do product managery type stuff with civil society organizations, and refine the product until it is providing, it's valuable to them. It's valuable to them where they're using it all the time. And that's begun, but the idea is to use that money to nail that and then scale it up around the world.
Thank you very much. I think the next question was addressed to you as well. It's from Virginia Raffaelli. She was asking, of course, could this hate speech detection software be expanded in the future and usable on a large scale by individual citizens and not just CSOs? So do you think if that occurs, are there any risks that putting this kind of flagging power in the hands of individuals could lead it to be used negatively by one group to deprive others of the freedom of speech? Or do you have safeguards or no risk assessment on this at all?
No, so it's a very good point. So we're very worried about this. So it's without getting too much into detail, the individual's flagging content, that does not mean that their preferences on what's hate speech or what's not necessarily gets sort of encoded into the algorithm. We're being very careful about that. Right now, it's essentially we're collecting data. We're collecting data. We're not making value judgments on the data being both reported, and we're also collecting data that's not being flagged. So the question is, I think, completely a very good question. And my response would be, that is not the methodology that we're using. And also, whether to expand who gets to use the platform will be a question for the governance board at INGO Article 19 sets up and makes it. We're not going to make those decisions. I think those decisions should not be in our hands. They should be by freedom of expression experts. And they get to wrestle with the thorny legal philosophical issues with that. Like, I don't want to. So to that point is, the very good question is, it's a very good question. The idea is, no, we wouldn't expand the circle. We'd keep the circle very tight and proceed step by step and very cautiously. Not to say that we won't make mistakes, but we're mindful of some of the problems.
Thank you. I think the next question I have here comes from Tala Dolatashi, and she's asking, how does the model work in terms of identifying non-people like bots, made-up accounts, inciting violence on behalf of governments?
Yeah, so we have lots of thoughts around this. So I have to be a little bit vague because we're in discussions. We're we're in discussions with the social media companies about this. I'll kind of put it that way. But one of the aims is that absolutely is for sure bot tracking. Absolutely, right? So all I can say right now is that it's in the product backlog. Just but I think I can't comment more than that at the moment.
Thank you. I don't have any other questions at the moment. As far as I know, we still have a little time. I thought I might come up with maybe a question of my own in this respect. And since, our two winners, of course, represent both of them a different use of information technology. So I was wondering whether, either Michael or Adrien actually had a question for either the other in this respect, into what sort of a difference, what sort of issues did you encounter when you were developing the tool, and do some of these experiences, might they be common, or would they differ, as was the object of your respective missions do?
I mean, I have a question for Michael, and Michael, I really liked your approach to iterative development, and how you launch, you test, you improve, you launch again. My question is how difficult has it been to do that in an operational environment, and dealing with the actual hate speech and the implications of that. And it was a concern for us as well. Just mentioning that because we were launching an operational service, helping organizations on the ground, and we were concerned about prototyping too much. So how did you find the right balance?
Yeah, no, it's a great question. So, without kidding, the sort of intersectionality part is wild, right? So I'm the son of Myanmar immigrants, right? I was born and raised in the States, obviously, right? I've been living in Myanmar for the last 8 years, right? It's hard to reduce. We've had to build credibility, right? So it's all these little humanistic events that get shown in prestige dramas on HBO that add up to building credibility, and me learning lessons, and other people on our team learning lessons. Also, our team is 95% Myanmar nationals, right? So I think one of the key things is sheer representation. One of the issues around this. So we have 100 people, 95% of them are Myanmar nationals, 55% of them are women, and I think it's a huge. I'm not saying that every organization has to do that, but I think it's a very important factor. And they'll point out biases. I happen to have the women in our organization point out, you're giving this charming, intelligent man a lot of rope here. Why don't you just fire him already? and so it's all those little moments that you write about. You watch a good TV show and it shows. You watch a good movie and it shows. You read a good novel, and we've had to cut our teeth on that. And once you've built credibility in this space, then civil society actors will trust you more, because they feel that you at least somewhat empathize with their situation. And I'll say this: I'm just talking about myself here, or I think Westerners, we do not realize how all these cultural assumptions we have from growing up in the West. We don't realize it. And those assumptions are so different than the lived reality of, now obviously, again, intersectionality depends on many other factors, depending on who you're talking to. They're so different that product market fit will all the stuff that like I took for granted when I first arrived in Myanmar are like completely wrong. Like they're just completely wrong. You don't know. I think I don't know until you live it. And so I would say, you know, that's how we've learned it. Walking in there, having a bunch of dumb ideas, and then learning the hard way that our ideas were dumb and I'm dumb. I think that's really the way to do it.
But are you saying that thanks to that, you know, representation inside the team, you potentially like it's a little bit easier. You can get away with some mistakes, and the community is not gonna like turn their back on you because they know that you have their interest at heart, which may not be the case if you were, you know, a mostly like US based and US represented organization.
I think that probably goes in. I mean, I think showing up, and I think one of the few human universal traits is like people will appreciate sustained effort over time by someone who isn't a jerk. Like I think, and it's like cutting your teeth, all these different expressions, right? And over time is like years, right? So like I've made all sorts of mistakes, but I and others won't go away, and then we'll learn from our mistakes. So I think most people don't do that. Like I think most people give up or they run away or, you know, whatever. So I think that's like the big thing. And I actually don't think it matters what you look like, where you come from, whatever. If you're willing to hang in there and just take a beating to your ego for a long time, I think people respect that at the end of the day. I think that's sort of the takeaway. Yeah.
Thanks. Good tips. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I mean, I'm sure, you know, Michael and Adrien and the, you know, the other team winners and the participants, you all have a lot more to exchange, and probably this event is going to go on in more direct forms between all of you. But I think for now we've reached the end of our allotted time for the ceremony, and we have to bring it to a conclusion. So of course, congratulations again to NLP and Cyber for Healthcare, and for MindVision, the three winners of this year's 2020 GCSP Prize for Innovation in Global Security. Of course, we also want to thank everyone who joined us online today for this event. Everyone involved in this year's prize too, you know, whether you competed or helped organize it, of course, our different jury members, and last but not least, the colleagues on the GCSP staff who helped make this program technically possible. It was fun doing it with you as well too. So we're looking forward to seeing you all again soon as well. I wish you a very nice rest of the day. Stay safe. Goodbye from us. Goodbye, but not farewell from us at the GCSP in Geneva.